Greetings, Imagine Andrews families, and welcome to our 2001-2002 Back to School Night. As you know, this Back to School Night is virtual, so it is officially virtual Back to School Night. My hope was that at this point we could have our Back to School Night face to face, but because of the state of the pandemic, we are coming to you virtually today. I hope you enjoy your time with your child's teacher as they share information, and during this time, I will share the message from Principal Rice. 1 second as I share my screen. Again, welcome and thank you all for coming to us virtually this evening. At this point, I will share some information with you that will help you navigate throughout the school year, hopefully answer some questions that you may have had up until now, and some questions that you may not have even thought of may be answered during this presentation. So I would like to begin with talking about communication, particularly our communication with scholars and families. So between our scholars and families, Canvas is going to be the platform that is going to be used. Canvas replaces Google Classroom. Canvas is a process that the teachers were trained on right before school started. We have Canvas champions who are on our staff who support our teachers. Our teachers in turn are supporting our students to make sure that they are able to learn about and understand and use Canvas. Class Dojo is the ultimate form of communication at Imagine Andrews. It is our primary form of communication. All things that are urgent, important, or things that you just need to know will be and are on Class Dojo. Class Dojo is best used if you have it uploaded on your phone as an app. It can also be on the computer, but if you have it on your phone and have your settings set to where you get notifications, then you will get notifications frequently and you won't have to go into Class Dojo to get information. Class Dojo is set up to be an information, a system or a platform that pushes out information. If it is used as a way for us to pull you in, as in you log on your computer periodically and go in to see what we posted on Dojo and go back and look at the previous posts without getting notifications, it is likely that you will get behind in Dojo. It is a push out platform, and that is the purpose of it, and that is how it's best used. SchoolMax will also be used because, and I'll explain this a little later in the next slide, Canvas right now has only been adopted by Prince George's County for the communication between scholars and the teacher. So that is used for uploading documents, for the teacher to assign assignments, and for students to turn their assignments in. At this time, parents are not allowed or not able to communicate with with teachers using Canvas, but they can use what's called Student View to see what's there. If you are not using Student View, then you would look at SchoolMax for things like seeing how many assignments that your children have turned in throughout each week. So if you would like to know what your students are turning in, if their assignments have been turned in, if they, what grades they receive, that will be SchoolMax. Many of you who are returning families are already connected to SchoolMax. I know there are some people that I have been notified that they are trying to get into SchoolMax, and I have your emails. I'm currently working to respond to you to get the assistance that you need. But these are our top forms of communication. There are other forms, but I'm going to speak about these three today. We also have a platform called Messenger that we will use at times specifically for urgent issues to make sure that there's an extra layer of communication, and that sends a text message to your phone or an email. Communication with scholars and families. So Canvas will be used for scholars to upload assignments, teachers to post assignments, and for scholars to teach and to communicate. For scholars and teachers to communicate. Pretty much that simple to what I was saying in the previous slide, but that is what we will use, one of the things we will use Canvas for. Parent communication will be available through Canvas in January 2022. So after we come back in the new year, there will be an additional piece added to Canvas for families to be able to communicate with teachers. So that piece will be added in January. And as I spoke about using SchoolMax for that reason, that SchoolMax will still be the place that you go to communicate or to check your students' grades. But in January, you will be able to communicate with the teacher via via Canvas. So that is a great thing. I believe that January will come before we know it. It will actually come around the time that we really have gotten the swing of Canvas. And then we will be able to make sure that that layer is added to our platform. Class Dojo, again, is our primary source of communication. If you are not connected to Class Dojo, you will miss a lot of important information. So please make sure that you're connected to Class Dojo. We have lots of families connected to Class Dojo now. So I do believe that probably 90+% of our families are on Class Dojo, but I just want to express the importance of making sure everyone is connected to Class Dojo. That is it. It would be very important to be connected to SchoolMax for checking grades and attendance. So those are things that I've said prior to now in the previous slide. Uniform update. I would like to thank all of our new families and returning families who have done so well with making sure that their students are in uniform, whether the uniform had your items or not. Our students are coming to school looking wonderful. Either they have on exactly what they're supposed to have on, or if the uniform store did not have what they needed, then their parents, you all have done a great job at bringing them as close to possible as what the uniform is supposed to be. And I'm very appreciative of that. In the midst of a pandemic where there are a lot of other important things, I just would like to thank you all for that. But until the uniforms are back in stock, please continue to wear what is as close to the uniform as possible. And again, from what I see, you all are doing a great job at that. Please continue to keep that going. Bringing fast food to lunch. So we've had an influx of families bringing food during lunch. So bringing different types of fast food. Rarely a balanced lunch, just things that are being picked up and brought either during the lunch period or right before. The first thing is that we follow the PGCPS Wellness, Nutrition, and Physical Activity Administrative Procedure, and that is aligned to the Maryland Wellness policies. And so that is to promote healthy food. Our lunch that is given to children, that is there's no longer a fee for that, is aligned to those two things. So it's aligned to the Prince George's County Wellness, Nutrition, and Physical Activity Administrative Procedure and the Maryland wellness policies. So we want to continue to promote that. So having students eating McDonald's and Chick-fil-A during lunch doesn't necessarily go with that. So I'm asking that you do not bring those things to the school for children. The other thing is that it can be a disruption when it arrives before school. Before lunch, and it has to be brought to the class. And it also disrupts our office, where our office secretaries and such have to go to different places to deliver food when they could be doing things to help to run the school. So I'm asking that we discontinue bringing those things to school for those multiple reasons. Thank you. Closing schools and weather delays. So there are many things about Prince George's County Public Schools and Imagine Schools that are aligned. And one of those things would be the school calendar. So we follow the openings and the the delayed openings and the early dismissals. Anything that has to do with school closings related to weather, that is something that comes through Prince George's County. So when you look, for our new family specifically, when you look on the news and you see Prince George's County Public Schools will be 2-hour delayed or closed, then you know that that is connected to Imagine. We don't make our own decisions about closing schools early or closing schools completely, particularly related to weather and things like that. We always put it on Class Dojo, so that will come from my Class Dojo account. We will also at times use School Messenger as a backup. So be on the lookout for that. And that is something that we can also receive alerts on our phone. If you go to the Prince George's County Public School website, there is a space on there that shows you how you can have that sent to your phone as a messenger sometimes before we even get a chance to post. Oftentimes that's how I find out first. So that can be found on the Prince George's County Public Schools website. But the biggest thing that you should know is that we follow the Prince George's County Public Schools for closing and delays. PTA focus group update. So soon there will be on October 1st at 11 o'clock, there will be a focus group that will meet and discuss what are the next steps for rebooting our PTA. Our current PTA has kind of dissolved because many of our board members were PCS during the pandemic. So we do need to start over. I put out a Google form about a month ago where families were able to sign up and show interest. So I do have a cohort of families that are going to join me on October 1st to discuss what we need to do to reboot our PTA, but also find out people who are willing to be board members. So I will post that again before October 1st to see if we can get more people on board, but that focus group will take place on October 1st at 11 o'clock. It will be virtual and I will share the link for that session. It is just very important that as we move into the school year after being out, after PTA not being able to operate as much when we were virtual, it's important that we get that back going in the month of October so that we can hear from families and families can support the school during a difficult time where we do need to come together to help make some things take place. Contact tracing and close contact. So there are some guidelines that are in place related to the CDC, and some of them have changed multiple times over the school year. Currently, the definition of close contact is if for staff, if you're within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, regardless of mask, for students within 3 feet for more than 15 minutes, regardless of mask. Those close contact individuals are part of a protocol that when there is a COVID case, those individuals will be contacted and informed. Sometimes that's based off interviews of staff members or children to find out who were you in close contact with, but primarily it is connected to our contact tracing and our seating arrangements in the lunchroom and classroom that we'll talk about a little later. But that is the definition of contact. And then the principals and then the principal and the nurse collaborates to contact those families via phone, via letters, and there's a whole process in place. But close contact is the key. And so I wanted to make sure I mentioned a little about close contact and our contact tracing, and I do have more about that in the coming slides. COVID consent forms. So COVID consent forms will be sent home on Wednesday, September 22nd. And these forms will come home and we ask that families send them back with children by Monday, September 27th. And that is a form that is used so that if in the event that your child has to be tested, we have permission to test them. So if something comes up, if they are suspected of being exposed, if they have symptoms, and we have to work on them being integrated back into the school, we would like those forms to be completed so that we have the consent to test your child. So those forms will be coming home on Wednesday, the 22nd, and we ask that they come back by September 27th. Health room and care room. So the care room is a room that we actually had last year. We still have that room this year. And it's an area that if a student is suspected to have symptoms of COVID-19, if they're not feeling well, it is an area where they wait while we go through the process of the next steps to contact their parents and make sure that we understand what they're feeling, but we also want to separate them from the rest of the population. So the care room is a room that somewhat isolates the children from the rest of the room. It's very close or pretty much within the health suite. And we use that area to make time to make the next steps to care for our students who may be COVID positive or have COVID symptoms and contact their parents immediately and go with the next steps to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned the care room. Assigned seating and contact tracing. So teachers will assign seats to students to assist with contact tracing if necessary. So the if necessary part is if we need to do contact tracing, but we have had to do contact tracing, and that is everyone sits in the same seat whenever they come into class. The teachers have done a great job at naming those seats, labeling those seats, knowing who sits next to who and who sits in which seat during which class, which two students sit in seat 4, which two students sit in seat 7 in each class. In the case of our departmentalized classes specifically. So we are doing contact tracing. It has worked as a way of going back to find out who may have had close contact with students. We will continue to do that. And I commend the teachers for keeping that going and being able to respond so like clearly of who sat next to who when we have to go to them about that. So that has been a great help in contact tracing. School-based COVID compliance committee. There is a COVID compliance committee at Imagine Andrews. That team met recently just to go over ways that we can make sure that we have people in place to combat the issues that come with opening a school in the pandemic. So this is a list of who's a part of that. We have teachers, we have a school nurse, all the members of the administrative team are a part of that team. And then we have different stakeholders throughout the building who are part of that team. And so that team definitely makes up a group of people who put their heads together and brainstorm on how to keep the school safe. And that committee, again, talks about, this just kind of talks about the protocols and the things that we do related to decision-making and how that is, the great thing is that it doesn't leave the principal to take care of everything, nor does it leave the school nurse to take care of everything. We are the primary two people who take care of the issues related to COVID, but our COVID compliance committee comes in and takes on certain roles so that we have enough people to make sure everyone is safe, but more importantly, to make sure that we are compliant as a school. Some of our important dates that we have coming. We do have a professional development day on October 1st, so schools will be closed. We also have a professional development day on October 11th, and so schools will be closed on that day as well. And October 15th will be yet another professional development day. And so these are days that we use for staff to be obviously professionally developed, and that happens during the day, so students will not be in school on those days. So that is the presentation that I have for you today. I hope these items that I shared with you today were able to answer some of your questions. If you have any questions for me, as always, you can email me at howard.rice@pgcps.org. And my goal is to reply to you within 48 hours. You can also use Class Dojo. As you know, Class Dojo is kind of for a quick snippet of, a quick question. I may be able to answer it. I can check Class Dojo as much as possible. But for things that are urgent and things that are lengthy, with your requesting questions, I would prefer that you send me an email. And again, I will do my best to respond within 48 hours. Other than that, I hope that you enjoy yourself this evening at our back to school night. I know we are virtual, but at the same time, we are all together as one school. So I appreciate you all joining us tonight. Thank you for watching my message from the principal, and have a great evening.